Right, lads. So obviously beat Dirrans on a high. Before we go to Linlithgow, actually, Johnny, can you remember much from the night out after the Dirrans game?
Is that when we went to Oran Moor?
What's a boy in love supposed to do? Oran Moor on the hill.
Aye,
Aye.
I've just been
And
off our face.
he's introduced me to that game of fives, is it?
Aye.
Aye. After that first game, there's not much memory there.
Can you remember the Jordan Hill fitness test that you had to do between the two poles?
I wouldn't pass that anymore.
No. Actually that season, I can't remember us ever going back to the pub as much as we did that season, even when we were getting beat. We were just always go back. We were always going back to the hill, weren't we, in the West End? So it was. I think the social side of things really kind of epitomised it for me.
I remember Bruno speaking to you before. I do actually remember speaking to you before the Dirrans game, thinking, listen, you got to go for a beer after the game. Like that. Nah, not tonight, man. I'm not feeling it. Just not feeling great after the week I've had. First time back in the dressing room. Right, so where are we going tonight then? That was it. I think we had a really good turnout for that night out as well.
Yeah. It was
what a turnaround.
It was really, really good. So obviously going into the Linlithgow game, I mean, I'll never play in as big a game as that in my life, and I never have previously. Like, we've all probably played in cup finals and won cups, but never got to the 6th round of the Scottish Cup before, So going into the game, Andy, biggest game probably in Jordan Hill's history. What did you make of the game?
Well, actually, I didn't make that round. Because of all the delays and the postponements for the previous round, that game happened to fall on, I think, my birthday weekend. And my partner at the time had arranged something for us to go and do. So being under the whip at that point, I had to go do that.
I would like to remind our female viewers that Andy is still single. And his phone number is coming across the screen now. So we'd obviously, it's exactly 5 years ago today that we're actually recording this. It's exactly 5 years ago that we played the game. So going back to the shots game that Andy missed as well, Jive was in charge, and I remember the warm-up, like basically being Bruni, just get them warmed up kind of thing, the photograph before the game would have never happened if Andy was there. Elliot, no?
No. Mate, that still haunts me. Whenever we bring this up, and there's so many positive things associated with it, and that's the image that we're left with, that travesty of photography.
It was like, if you just like a graph of, right, let's put the shortest players at one side and we'll just put them in order of height. That's what it look like. Ask anybody a team picture of wee guys at the front, big guys at the back. Not that day.
I'm certain Elliot's standing on his toes as well. I'm sure he's like eared up.
I think I'm extending my neck just to make sure I don't get any double chins in it.
That's exactly what it was.
But I remember it being so close to actual kickoff time. It was kind of like a last minute, oh Christ, and we kind of scrambled. That's why we're just kind of, everyone rammed in kind of odd off one end and then low to high like you're talking about. It was terrible.
Anytime I share it as well, it's always in black and white, because those pictures were those yellow strips. Like they're
the picture was on a slant as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was awful. Absolutely awful. It's the last time Andy ever misses a round 6 game of the Scottish Cup.
I promise I will never miss a round 6 game again.
Thank God. Thank God you get rid of her as well. Johnny, you remember much from the start of the game? Were you nervous?
I think so, yeah. I think that was a game. I'm sure your car was in the garage or something, so I picked you and Jamie up.
So I'd had a couple of whiskies before the game.
Is that what it was?
Shiting myself. I was feeling I was like still loaded, kind of struggling with the flu. But because I'd had such a bad game the previous week, I was like, I need not like a bit of Dutch courage. I wasn't steaming or anything, but I needed a couple of whiskies in me just to kind of settle the nerves, because Andy told me that I was starting, and I was sure he was going to drop me because I played that bad. And actually, when he told me he was starting, I was actually really nervous. Like, I was shiting myself, thinking I can't play as bad again, you know. So I remember the car journey over, and I just remember the phone just going mental, the WhatsApp, just because I think the boys were just, you know,
I remember that, and then obviously, yeah, I think match nerves by that point, because we'd sort of surpassed our expectations, I suppose, of getting that far.
I think we'd surpassed the expectations, really. If you look at the shots game, you know, like, I think that if we were to go out at the end, that's probably what we kind of deserved. We got what we deserved, but like, I think getting to something like that was beyond our wildest dreams, really, wasn't it?
It was definitely.
So, Jamie, we'd start the game well.
From what I remember, I think we started pretty well. I think it was a fairly level game up until about maybe half an hour in. But I just remember them being a very, very good team. I'm fairly sure a good chunk of their starting 11 were all involved with like the Scottish Amateur Select. They were just a very good side. A step up again from what Dirrans were, and Dirrans were a very good team. You know, so yeah, I think we did well to kind of stay in it, and I think if we kind of went into half time either still level or even ahead, you couldn't really complain, I don't think.
I remember first couple of minutes thinking, I'm going to have to put myself about here a wee bit, because I want to kind of put one of their centre mids up in the air if I can, just to show them that, like, I'm going to compete. Because I remember them thinking they were a very, very good side, you know, and they played the ball really well. And I went to put this boy up in the air, and I just bounced off of him. He was just like, the boy, just like a proper, you know, you could tell he played like a top level. And I struggled to get near him the rest of the game. Any headers and all that, he just powered me out of the way. But a really, really good side. Like, you played well that game, though. You held the ball up for us. I think that was a kind of key thing. I think when we got the ball up to you, we were able to move up the park. Any memories?
So, like you guys were saying before, I remember us starting the game pretty well. I remember being pretty confident at the start of the game, because, again, it was kind of a bit of a bonus that we got through from Dirrans. Like you're saying, we were punching above our weight, maybe the past round or 2 rounds at least. So I remember being confident at the start. The first time the ball came up to me, I trapped it under my foot and saw a big burly centre back coming in, and I rolled it through his legs, and I thought, that's me off the flyer. I was ready for it after that. But then, lo and behold, the next time the ball got played up long and I went up for it, the same centre half that I'd nutmegged swept under my legs, and I went crashing down, landed on my wrist, and then that was it. Pretty gubbed after that. So I was probably not as effective after kind of maybe midway through the first half after that. Yeah. But no, like you're saying, I think we started well. It was probably a pleasant surprise to all of us, because like you're saying, we like to put ourselves in the worst possible position to start with usually. Yeah. And I think we were out the blocks actually pretty well in that game, if my memory serves me correctly.
Obviously, everything reversed, didn't it, really? Because Johnny, you mentioned that previous games we'd started really poorly, and then we came back into the game. Mm-hmm. But we started really well. We were in the game. I remember thinking, God, we're actually in this here. You know, unlike the Dirrans game, I thought, oh my God, we're going to get caught up. And I think it was at that point where I was like, I wasn't nervous at all, because I just thought, you know, we've kind of, that's us at the end of the line here. You know, let's just go and enjoy it. And
is that whiskey's kicking?
It could have been, actually. I need to do that more often. Not advocating drinking before games, but I think the goal was a complete kick in the nuts for us. It was not deserved whatsoever for us at all, and we could have defended it far better, in my opinion. It just came from nothing, and then they went 2-0 up, didn't they? And then I thought, game's done. I thought, there's no way we're getting back into the game. And then out of nowhere, this ball goes up in the air. And Jamie, I don't think, have you scored a better goal? Not on camera.
I think, do you remember playing up at, where did we play that? what's it called again? What did we play Lochaber last season?
Oh, can look even.
Yeah, I scored a better one that day, and it was given offside. Like
Yeah,
again,
and
ridiculous decision. And then the one, I think the one in pre-season this year down it was arguably better.
They're not on
but
camera, Jamie, so they don't count.
Not on camera, so it didn't count, and it was a friendly, so it doesn't count. But no, in terms of, I don't think I scored a better one or a more important one. I think at that point, because at that, I thought at that point, well, we're going to come back here. Just the way the last few rounds had gone, thought no, that's we're coming back into this game, and it didn't turn out that way. But
it's so funny because anytime you try the extravagant, you know, and they're like, "Fuck's sake, Jamie, just take it down," and you know, like try it, fucking take your chances and play the odds. And
take a touch.
I remember this ball being there, and obviously Andy's away having dinner with his ex at that time, and you know, he's just thought, "I'm going to hit this thing first time," and it was. I remember at that point just thinking, "We're back in this."
Yeah,
100%, we're back in this, and then we're in the game. And I remember we had a chance, and I thought, "Oh my God, if we can just equalise and get them back to Coombe Park, we'll probably get beat at Coombe Park." But and then the ball, you saved it, Johnny, didn't you? And it came off the bar.
I think so, aye.
And then it dropped down, and you'd made a brilliant save. You collected it, and the boy came in and broke your hand.
Yeah, I think because there was two incidents, and I think that the first one I came out in a 1v1 and I won the ball, and then the guy slid into my ribs.
Yeah.
Aye.
Then I think the second one was when I broke my hand. Made the save.
The boys just tapped it in after that.
Aye, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
That was the infamous moment that Dermot, of all people, the doctor.
What a comment.
What was it again, Jamie?
Fuck's sake, ref. It's called football, not bloody kicking in the head ball or something like that.
Honestly, one of my favourite things ever. That.
To be fair, he didn't kick my head.
No. Oh man, it was devastating actually to lose it like that, because we played so well. We really deserved to get back into the game. We looked like we got back in the game, and luck just went against us. A really poor referee decision. They went on and they scored another, and we lost 4-1. But it was funny, wasn't it? Because it wasn't seen, and you shouldn't be celebrating a loss. But I remember after the game, everyone just getting in their cars and going home. And I think we've achieved far less and celebrated far more, you know, after the game. And it was a real shame. And I think looking back, I think it would have been better for us to push for all of us to go in and just get drunk and actually really celebrate the fact that, you know, with the team we've got right now, no offence, we'll go to Andy actually for his opinion in a minute, right? But I think we've got a really, really good team right now. But I think we're way off ever getting to the 6th round of a Scottish Cup, you know.
It's a different team, isn't it? There was far more experience. I know we're all 5 years older, obviously, but then there was just seemed to be far more experience in that squad than there is now.
So I was going to ask Andy, who do you hit?
Yeah, Jamie, you hit the nail on the head there. We're all more experienced now, but if you look at that team, there was probably a team of experienced players with 2 young guys there.
Yeah.
Whereas now we probably have about 4 or 5 experienced, what you call really experienced amateur players in the squad, and it's more filled with young, like early 20s to mid 20s players now. So yes, probably the squad and team is probably better now. It would be a really close match because that team back then makes up for it through the experience and the knowledge and sort of like the streetwiseness of that team.
Yeah. See, I think that's probably why we would probably win. I think it's funny, like you give us the current team right now, and I think me and Jamie are in a position that, you know, we're in both teams, so either way we're going to win. But I think the depth we've got now is unbelievable. We've got 3 goalkeepers, you know, we've got 4 centre halves, we've got, you know, 2 right backs, 2 left backs, we've got 2 players for every position. we've now got an assistant manager, we've got a cameraman. It's like ridiculous, you know, the setup we've got right now. But I said this off camera, but I really do worry about where we would be with a club if we didn't have this cup run, because I think we would have lost players because of our league run, you know. So obviously the cup was over, the dream was over. Hampden is no more for us. We seem to have a bit of a springboard after that, Andy, didn't we, in terms of the league? We seem to do. Oh, actually, before I go on, actually, there was you had a friend at the game, didn't you?
Aye, so it was obviously I was checking on the boys, trying to see how the game was going, and I was scrolling through, I think, Twitter that night, and I used to play for Hamilton 10 years prior. I was there for a good 4 or 5 years, and the club secretary, Scott Struthers, he has been to probably almost every stadium in the UK. He loves football, and I'm good friends with him through our connection at Hamilton. So he was always posting he was at this game or this game and this game, and he would go to amateur games as well. And up pops on the Twitter feed that he's at the Scottish 6th round game, Linlithgow v Jordan Hill, and I'm like, what? And what the boys didn't know, while they're playing this big important game, is to add the importance to the game, Scott was actually a UEFA delegate at the time. So he's 1 week he's in the San Siro watching AC Milan in the Champions League, and then that weekend he's at Linlithgow v Jordan Hill in the 6th round of the Scottish Amateur Cup.
Thank God I didn't know that. I would have ended up finishing the bottle of whiskey.
Oh,
So the cup was definitely a springboard for us in the league, and you could definitely see that the week or two after, and we won those games. But then we had a bit of a drop off in the middle, and we were still rock bottom of the league in the 2nd division, which we'd never ever been in the 3rd division before. We'd always managed to maintain our status in 2nd division and 1st division. I remember it was a real determination to try and stay up, and it was brilliant actually, because our focus, I think, if we're all being honest, was the cup and looking forward to the next round, and the league definitely took an impact. But then it was almost like we've had a second thing to play for, and we went into the last 3 games. We played against Hamilton Thistle. Can any of you boys remember Hamilton Thistle?
Can I just say, Ian, remember going into those last 3 games, we hadn't won in 5, we'd drawn 1, lost 4, and we had to win all 3.
And we'd only won 3 games previous the whole season.
Yeah, so
in the league,
we've given the whole form through that league season. 3 games left, we had to win all 3.
Yeah, which is nuts. So we played Hamilton Thistle away. They'd beaten us at home, who were like an awful side. Can you boys remember Hamilton Thistle? Because I can remember them very well.
Yeah.
You remember them? Oh, they were awful. They were awful people.
They ended up not getting kicked out of the league, but they did not end up kind of getting docked a lot of points towards the end.
They got 2 players sent off against us away. Like, we were at home, sorry. And then 2 weeks later, we were playing them away, and the same players were playing. And we checked the team lines, and they'd used different names. So apparently, they'd had players sent off like 6-7 times during the season, but they just kept changing the names of those players. So they ended up getting thrown out of the league actually at the end of the year. But I remember we went out and we pumped them away actually.
Yeah.
And it was a huge barney and a huge fight at the end. I remember Andy Maxwell running away as it was a brawl.
I remember that. I got stamped on in that game.
That's right. I remember that.
You remember? I remember Andy McCall getting into a fight with a big guy in the centre as well, and it was mental. It was absolutely nuts. But we came away and we won. We'd missed, I think when we played Hamilton away, the pitch was awful. It was absolutely horrendous, but we were missing from 3 or 4 yards, and the ball kept bouncing and it was all over the place. We then went to play Westerlands, who, Elliot, you'll know well, and you'd Jerry. I know Jerry really well as well, obviously playing, and they'd pulled in 1 or 2 of their first team players as well.
Yep, that's what I'm saying there. So obviously knowing Jerry and knowing a couple of other boys, and I think it was because it was towards the end of the season, and I think it was a midweek game. I think the West
Was, yeah. Was.
It was, yeah.
I think they'd obviously drafted in a few of the first team players, and it was at, is it Pollok Park? Is that where that pitch was?
The police park.
Police Parks.
Aye. So that's what it was. But aye, just the memory from it is needing to win, playing against Jerry O, and then I remember wrestling with big Marco Radici. He's the big Italian right back, and he was going off his nut. I was giving him a torrid time, but then Warnsy's horrific goal that was of massive.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just scraped it in.
No,
we played pretty well that night, though. That was. I mean, in terms of the league, that Westlands team was probably the best team we played all year. You know, and we've been.
Well, see, to be fair, not that I'm trying to take credit here, but the Hamilton game, I think we just started to change to a back three. We went a 3-5-2.
Yeah.
Oh, and that was the start of it.
It was strange because we'd beaten East Kilbride Rolls Royce early in the season. That was the kind of one game we seemed to win, and we played a 3-5-2 that day as well. And then we went in, and do you know what's funny? Although looking back, like looking at it now, the Dirrans game and the Lithgow game is so much bigger. But that East Kilbride game, the last game of the season, we called it the Survivor Series, remember? Because it was a key game. It was like coming into the third game, we had to win. And strangely, they needed to win as well in order to stay up. So it was kind of all no holds barred, like winner takes all. And we always notoriously midweek had terrible squads, and we had 18 players to choose from that night. Jive turned up. I remember him there in the suit. And we played midweek, and we played in that horrible park up in Ballarat. Johnny, do you remember much from that game?
I don't think I was. Was that at the end of the season?
It was the very last game of the season.
Because obviously I broke my hand, so.
Oh, that's what you had. So you
I was the last three games. I was seeing it for the sideline.
Mo played in goals.
Man,
Do you know why? I remember Mo now, actually, because he held up the Giffnock football shirt at the end.
Right. Memorial game at Kilhern. That was my
Yes, aye. So obviously we'd lost you as well, Johnny, which was a huge hit for us at the time, and I actually think we suffered quite a bit in that middle spell with not having you in. But we went up to East Kilbride, and Jamie, you remember they'd pulled in quite a few of their first team, like Westlands.
Yeah,
but
they had, and again, I think that went against them because it was they were the team that were down at the bottom with us, and we knew if we won, we were fine. And so obviously our boys were really up for it. I just don't think they had the same sort of edge to it, because it wasn't their team as such. Do you know what I mean?
It's the only time I think where I've had this feeling going into play with Jordan Hill that, you know, we've not won a trophy in over 10 years, but that felt like a cup final to me. Actually, that game that night just felt like.
Our guys were unbelievably up for it. You know, really two good wins, and we knew it was on the line. So
we were very, very comfortable that game. Like I remember like standing at the side in that season that quite often I'd be standing at the side of the park like I do like this, like, and just in total shock at sort of like the mistakes that we were making and how bad we were. But that game, standing at the side of the park, it felt really good because we were passing the ball well, we had good shape, good structure, we were creating chances, we were solid in the tackle, we were winning our headers, and it was just like wow.
I remember we scored early. We scored twice early. So Andy Faulkner got the first one. It was like a bullet, a textbook bullet header from Big Andy, and then I scored the second one. And then at that point, it was just a case of, well, it was Easy Street. It was probably the most comfortable we've been, other than the John Street game. It was probably the most comfortable we've been all year.
I remember Big Ryan coming on at the end, and Andy's like, just take it easy, you know. And I swear to God, like, he's 30 seconds on the park and he already caused a fight. Like, he'd left his leg in with somebody and tried to pull guys off of him, you know. And like, what the hell, you know? But it was an amazing season, and the fact that we won our last 3 games to stay up, I think, was really good. And I think to this day, me and Jamie talk about it all the time, but we managed to keep that nucleus of that team, and we continued on to Giffnock, which was a great setup for us, gave us a great platform. But we actually didn't sign anybody from Giffnock for a kind of year or two down that line. It was just amazing. We kept that nucleus. We added a couple of boys, and by Christmas we were top of the second division, which was just incredible, thinking about where we kind of came from. And I think we won 10 games in a row. Between
we went on another kind of, it's funny because we went on another kind of pretty good Scottish Cup run as well. We kind of were in both of the cups. Not obviously didn't get anywhere near as far, but we stayed in both the West and the Scottish. Till I think about the fourth round. Because we brought like Blair had come back.
I was going to say, I think the key signings for us, we brought both Mulgrews back in. I think that gave us that kind of real bit of quality. I think we really missed Elliot as he went on to.
Vino was back as well. Remember, Vino was back at that point.
So he did, yeah. We'd brought in. We did Johnny. Johnny, you were still there. When did you go to Australia? Was that Christmas?
I think it was near the start of the season. It was only a few games in, I think. And then obviously Mark Creed started coming to training and stuff like that.
Mark's first game was this season as well. We played Blantyre Celtic.
That's right.
In the West, and they absolutely hammered us
on
easily the biggest pitch I've ever played on in my life. I think they just made it feel that way. They knocked the ball about. But Mark Reid played that day.
That's right.
We get beat 7 or 8-1. So the fact he actually bothered coming back after that, losing to Blantyre Celtic of all teams.
I think I missed that game as well.
Funny that, isn't it, Andy?
It's funny how, I know this is such a simple thing to say, but see when you're winning games, and then obviously the atmosphere has always been good with Jordan Hill.
Yeah.
See when you're winning games and you've got a good structure, you just hold on to players naturally, don't you? You know, I think, if I'm being honest, like with a lot of the players we've got right now, I don't think some of them would have lasted that season that we had in 15 or 16, because if you look at the league, I mean, we were losing games 3-4 games in a row, and then we'd play the cup and we'd win. There was a real nucleus that we just kind of stuck together. So really, to wrap it up, guys, like, just thanks so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. It's Johnny and Elliot, it's been amazing having you on. Like, although you're not with us anymore, you still feel massively part of the community, and I really, really just, from the club's point of view, I really appreciate all your help with kind of Run the Hill and the miles you put in. And I know you've both had kind of involvement with, when it comes to casino nights and things like that, coming back, playing in the Beatson Cup and things. So I really, really appreciate it. Andy, any words from you before we go?
Just thank you to all you guys for coming along, you know, sharing your memories of that epic season that we had. Johnny, you said it best, you know, really high highs, really low lows. There was no middle ground that season, you know. It was either up here or down here. Ian, you said it as well. I don't think without that season, I don't think we'd be where we are today. And the club's in good health, and that's the main thing.
Yep. I'd like to remind our female viewers that Andy Arbuckle is single. His phone number is going across the screen as we speak.
That's 07.
Jamie, anything from you?
No, you've summed it up pretty well. It was a pretty special season. Avoiding relegation and getting knocked out of all the cups. Brilliant season. Good season.
Well, hopefully we're back playing football soon, guys. I would love to have Westlands in the cup, on the 6th round of the cup. A last minute overhead.
Never mind that. I'd love to have Elliot up front next season.
Put Elliot's team out. That would be great. Johnny will be coming down from Forest just to watch from the hill, just to celebrate. So, listen, boys, all the best. Okay, take care. I'll see you all soon.
Yeah, cheers, Boone.
You too.